Hello and welcome to One Storyteller, where today we are in Chapter 3 of Return of the King, the Muster of Rohan. How do you feel about this chapter?
Well, it's to Minas Tirith and Pippin. Wait, I'm saying this backwards.
A little bit, a little
As
bit.
as Minas Tirith was to Pippin, so this chapter is to Mary. There we go.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's cool because Mary's cool.
Mary is fine.
Yeah, but we're just you can see at this point that we're moving back and forth between Gondor and Rohan. We had a little bit of an interruption to the pattern with a chapter focused on Aragorn last time. But on the whole, we're going to be moving back and forth between Rohan and Gondor as they move toward each other. We're going to see if they make it in time.
Hmm. Makes me almost wonder if the book would be better if we hadn't had the Aragorn chapter.
Yeah, you have to have that point somewhere, I think.
Well, think about this. I am doing a lot of thinking about the organization of this book.
Sure.
Because I mostly liked Two Towers, but I'm not sure that I like the idea of not hearing about Frodo and Sam for another 10 chapters or whatever it is.
Well, no,
Uh,
that's actually good for sure.
well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure I like how the books ended up being broken down, but that's more of something I will figure out near the end of Return of the King, I assume. Um, I do wonder, like, what do you lose if you cut that Aragorn chapter? You have, say, for instance, you had that first half of last chapter, chapter 2. You had the first half of it where Aragorn, it gets up to the point where Aragorn says goodbye, and then he rides off, and then you
Yeah.
just follow Theoden and Éomer for the rest of the chapter, which would be this, the content that's in this would just kind of be on the end of that. So you hear about Aragorn going to the paths of the dead with Éomer and Theoden. You hear about that from Éowyn as well, because Theoden shows up there, and then Éowyn kind of reports on what Aragorn was allegedly planning to do. And then after that, you still have a big question on if he survived or not. Because my main complaint with this chapter is there's quite a bit of time, and by that I mean like 2 pages spent on building up the danger of the paths of the dead when we've already seen that there isn't really a danger in the paths of the dead, or at least that Aragorn was able to overcome it. And so it kind of feels like the second half of chapter 2 wasn't originally in there, but then Tolkien decided to explain it.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
I sort of doubt that's how that went down.
Probably not.
But I understand what you're saying. I think that's actually pretty fair.
Let's go. What a good day when Andrew decides that I said something that's might be okay. Um, Oh my! Like I said after all my complaints last week with chapter 2, I did say afterwards. I think after the recording stopped, I couldn't write better than Tolkien can, but I do have my complaints. So
Hey,
good. So, do you like this chapter in terms of where it falls and how it is? Because it's mainly like a Mary characterization setup.
yeah, I think that's very needed.
Hmm.
We've seen bits and pieces of growth with Merry and Pippin, but Two Towers was mostly a wash for them. Like, and that's not a complaint. Like we were focusing on other good things in the Two Towers, but they had that interaction with Treebeard and not much else beside. You know, it was important for them, but it's neat seeing them grow some more, and it's necessary for them to grow in this way before we get to the end of the book.
Yeah. And to be fair, the interaction with Treebeard does carry a lot of weight in Two Towers. It's a very significant plot point.
Yeah,
Um, but it is kind of, when you zoom out, they just talk to a tree, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. Well, and they're participating in some grand scale things and learning about history and evil and leadership too, I think, from Treebeard. So it's all very interesting.
No.
But we're definitely getting more focused development in chapters like these.
They were side characters in Two Towers. They are main characters in Return of the King, or at least so far.
Yes, I think that checks out.
Yeah. So the basic summation of this chapter is Theoden travels to Edoras, and then he travels away from Edoras.
Indeed.
That's the entire plot.
Muster of Rohan, we ride for Gondor and war.
Apparently.
Yes.
That's what they say. Copyrighted music plays in the background. It's probably copyrighted. Great
Probably.
music, though. So you have, it's basically just a little bit of movement. The main interest in the chapter comes from conversations that Merry has with Theoden, or at least around Theoden, and then the conflict of Theoden and Éowyn, and also the Gondor guy comes, and that's kind of silly, and then we move on from that. That's essentially
no,
it.
it's not silly.
I think it's silly, but please, I would love to have an explanation for why it's happening, because I think it's silly.
Right, we'll talk about it when we get there. Yeah.
There's probably a bunch of background that I'm missing, but so it goes. Chapter begins, Theoden and his entourage. It basically picks up from where Aragorn left them, and they're just traveling through the mountains. Coming down, they are heading back to Edoras, the capital of Rohan, to call together the rest of the army from the area, and then it's from there that they will ride around. Are they going west around the mountains and then south and back east towards Gondor, or are they going east around the mountains and then south towards Minas Tirith? I don't know.
Well, the broad strokes of their journey is that they're moving from Helm's Deep, which is in the west, toward Edoras, which is in the east. It's kind of parallel to Minas Tirith, but separated by mountains. Yeah.
With the end goal of eventually, in some way, running around the mountains and coming back down.
East and then south, yeah.
Yep. Cool. So that's the theory. They plan to basically the army is going to be mustered. The Muster of Rohan. What do you know? It'll be mustered at not Rohan, at Dunharrow, which is the entrance to the Paths of the Dead. So that's going to come up in just a second. But basically, the army's going to gather there, and Theoden's going to meet everyone there, and from there they set out in a big retinue. 10,000 spears, except not really, because they're not going to end up having time for that, but that is the theory of at least get a lot of people together so that they can all set out. Special point is made that Merry is lonely on this journey, and he starts reminiscing about all of his friends. Pippin is the first one that springs to mind. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli are the second group. Frodo and Sam are kind of an afterthought, and then he's like, oh, well, they're kind of important, aren't they? To which I say, yes, they are, and we won't see them until the second half of the book.
Indeed.
I also feel like Merry. Very sad about Frodo and Sam. I will have forgotten them by the time we get to chapter 13 or whatever chapter it is.
No, you will not.
But perhaps I will. That's something I'll have to evaluate as we go through. And
for sure.
Anything that you want to call out on their journey into Edoras?
Yeah, I think Merry and Pippin are sort of having inverse arcs. That's probably too clean of a way to say it, but what I mean is Pippin has the luck of being thrown into greater and greater responsibility. And we observed, in especially the Fellowship of the Ring, excuse me, that he's sort of a lazy, nonchalant, young kind of person who is obviously very smart, but so it seems like he can kind of get by not doing very much.
Yeah.
And so it takes his circumstances throwing him into greater and greater responsibility. And particularly in this book, I guess The End of Two Towers, by being irresponsibly curious, he gets spirited away to Minas Tirith,
Mm-hmm.
where he's doing some growing. And I think part of it is being separated from Merry forces Pippin to grow up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, definitely.
For Merry, he's always been the responsible one. He's the one who planned Frodo's move in the first place and did a okay job starting them through the old forest.
Mm-hmm.
Just practical and dependable. But especially in this book, he's not able to contribute at all.
Yeah.
And that's tearing him up. He hates that. And paired with the loneliness, it's just terrible to imagine being in that situation. Yeah. I think Tolkien does a good job painting that picture.
Pippin would be naturally better suited to stay in Rohan, and Merry would be naturally better suited to go to Gondor.
I think so.
So it's interesting that they get split up the opposite way. I think it's also it's going to be beneficial for them, both personally, to be thrown into circumstances they wouldn't normally naturally want to deal with or be the most competent at dealing with, but it's good for them to experience things outside of the norm.
Exactly. No, I don't like admitting that because it makes me scared about what God will do to me, but
good luck.
Yes. The other thing here is Merry and the king talk some on the mountain road, talking while they're riding.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't do that the whole time. Maybe they would both want to, but practically that's just not how that works.
Yeah.
And so he ends up mostly being in silence as he rides, because the king has to plan things and talk to people who know how to muster the men of Rohan and things like that.
Is that happening on the road?
Well, Merry and Theoden's conversation is. Well, I guess I was sort of making an assumption about part of the reason he lagged behind. It doesn't say that right there.
I think it seems to be when the way was broader, he had ridden at the king's side.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But a lot of times it's just constricted.
Because it's a mountain road.
Theoden does have a line later on where he says, as long as I'm in my own country, you can accompany me and we can talk and have fun. But then there comes a point where he has to actually take counsel. And at that point, Merry Ridley isn't welcome there anymore because that's not his responsibility.
Yeah.
And so currently it's just it is a matter of friendship while there can be some peace and quiet. But as Theoden gets nearer to Edoras, he will need to devote more and more of his time to actually planning what he's supposed to be doing instead of having good times on the road. There's a time and place. They're running out of it. It is as they near Edoras, it's here that Theoden and Éomer are talking. And
yeah, this is interesting.
Éomer gives him a bit of advice. Well, it basically says, if you would take my counsel, stay home. Stay at your capital city until the war is over. And Theoden says no, for probably a variety of reasons. The one he cites immediately is that's what Wormtongue would say, and we don't want to go there again.
Based of him, yeah.
Understandable, and I definitely agree. That's not going to turn out so well for the longevity of his physical existence, shall we say. If you know, you know. But better to die a hero than live long enough to become the villain again, I suppose.
That's sort of his argument, actually.
Yeah.
Not to such an extreme.
Mm-hmm.
He says, if the war is won, or sorry, if the war is lost, and this is sort of what Baragond and Pippin say. Well, no, it's not. I don't know. Pippin and Baragond arrive at, well, we have to fight, and maybe we'll live on even if we fall, but we have to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I guess it's sort of similar. I keep moving back. It's very clear and helpful for this. But Theoden says, if Gondor loses, we're still going to die eventually, or lose our freedom at least, right? And he says, if it's won, it's not going to be some huge tragedy if I die in the war.
Yeah.
Because he's old, he says.
Yeah. Well, at least he would help do something in it. There's a purpose in being out there.
And we're gonna see, like, that's part of the picture too.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the humility scene in the first arguments he makes to Aemir.
Yeah, he doesn't. I don't think it's a mirror of Baragond and Pippin. It's
No,
kind
I
of
don't
a
think so.
mirror of Éowyn.
Oh, it is, yeah.
It's very, very strongly Éowyn coded, as the kids might say.
It's suitable for an old man, but not really for a young woman.
Yeah. He has. Well, it's a young woman who doesn't bear the kind of responsibility. As a king, you're expected to go out to war. As an old man, you have the wisdom to go out to war. As a man in general, you have an expectation to go out to war. And the young woman who is not in that position of authority doesn't have any of those put on her, not from outside. She has an expectation herself, but at that point, it's just kind of her coming up with it. Theoden is answering to the responsibility more so than anything else. But it does boil down to basically the same arguments, even though I would argue it's different for the people involved. They're basically saying the same thing. Why would I stay back?
I think
What's
that's
the
a very
benefit?
helpful connection. Yeah.
So interesting there. And if you know, you know, again, but Éowyn may or may not be getting involved here in this chapter. We shall see. Whoever could that be? When Theoden arrives near Edoras, his army is assembled and waiting for him. They took the advice from Gandalf. Gandalf had ridden there a few days prior, taking Pippin. So they had like doused their lights and such, and tried to keep hidden as best they could. Although there was a big shadow, a scary thing, and that was an ill omen. But they've kept out of sight as best they can.
Yeah.
Anything up until the point at which they meet Éowyn? Because there's a bit of writing around and description.
I like how the Rohirrim talk to their king. This Dunhir that they talk to, he's in charge of the garrison at Dunhiro, says, Gandalf spoke with great authority. We trust that's what you would wish. We hope that we trust that would be what you wish. And Theoden says, yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yep.
I don't know if I really have. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have more to say about that, but I like that dynamic, like the wisdom. Like that's kind of Aemir's wisdom we're seeing in done here. Is technically you could make some excuse and be like a big stickler, like that's not the king's command or something like that, and then Theoden doesn't take it personally at all. You know, he recognizes a wise command.
Yep. Good on both counts. I like the Rohan people. I would like the Gondor people if Denethor wasn't there.
Sure. You can imagine that with a good king returning, it's going to be great in Gondor.
Do you think that's going to happen in this book?
I don't know. The title's kind of ambiguous.
The Lord of the Rings. Who could that be? That's crazy. Yes. One question I did have. It's in my book. It's on page 59. It's in the section. It's like 3 paragraphs down, right after Theoden says that was good that you did that. The Pukelmen.
Oh yes.
What are the Pukelmen?
Well, they're described.
Well, yeah. I mean, they seem kind of like trolls.
Sure.
Is that it? That's all we know.
They
Well, you
are
heard it here first.
they are sort of the statue seems to represent some sort of Neanderthal
Mm-hmm.
like person, perhaps. Just these ancient statues from people who aren't the Rohirrim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all we know about them at this point. Yeah,
Terrible. Do we learn anything about them? Are they in the Silmarillion? Are they the main
they're in
characters?
they're in this book.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool.
They're one of the interesting things the movie cut that makes sense to cut,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll talk about that later.
Maybe they're at the Pelennor Fields too. Uh,
Almost.
ah, they're at the right of the Rohirrim, not the Pelennor Fields. Yeah, they the statement of no power or terror was left in them implies to me that I mean they just seem like Bilbo's trolls more than anything. It
Yeah, I
says
can
they're
see that.
carvings.
Yeah,
I don't know that I trust that, but I'm curious as to where that goes. I
yeah,
didn't know it was going anywhere. I thought it was just a flavored detail of the world.
yeah.
But
I think it mostly is, but it also ends up being a bit of foreshadowing.
okay, very
But
interesting.
and knowing where it's going, I can say this: it's not so much these are evil or statues of evil people or anything like that, but that the people who built them are no longer here, and so their statues no longer carry their authority.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think that's why Tolkien says that no power or terror was left in them.
Well, that makes me even more curious.
Yeah.
Very cool. It's at this point as they pass through the fields and the Pukelmen. That's just a great name.
Oh
I
yeah.
hope I'm pronouncing that right. That Eowyn meets them. She rides out to meet them in full kit, uh, all her armor and stuff,
Whew. Yeah.
and she says hello. Um, Pretty much the first thing that's said is, she mentions that Aragorn came, and so she had forewarning of their arrival.
Uh,
And they say, "Oh, do you know where he went? Did he go on the paths of the dead?" And when they say yes, then Éomer says, "Well, then everything is lost, and we're all hopeless, and such like that." Not quite that bad, but Éomer gets depressed at that point. Seems like
there's several interesting things here. Yeah.
yeah. Well, what I picked up on is I had said last chapter it was weird that Éomer didn't put up much of a fight when Aragorn said, "I'm gonna take this stupid pathway." It seems, reading his reaction, it seems like he was hoping Éowyn might be one to dissuade Aragorn from going there, and then when he finds out that she didn't or she couldn't, he says, "Oh, well, like that was it." So I wonder if that was in
Oh,
his head, which might explain some of why he was like, "Well, you know,
maybe.
it's a rash decision in the moment, but you'll have a day to think about it. You'll get to Edoras, and the woman will talk you out of it."
Maybe.
And there was a hope there. I don't know.
Yeah. I
It
still
makes
think
sense
the
to me.
biggest reason is their recognition of his commitment to the path, but there
Hmm.
might be some of that there.
Yeah. Well, it makes me feel better about it, so
There's a
I'll go with
there's a
that.
horrible stereotype here.
Hmm. Which one?
Every other time someone said they're fine, there's probably a couple exceptions to this. They've been fine. But when Eowyn says all is well, yet it seemed to Mary that her voice belied her. He would have thought that she had been weeping, if that could be believed of one so stern a face.
Hmm.
Sees all is well, but not all is well.
Oh,
Yeah.
that does track with human experience. Hmm. Well, at least most of the time when men say everything's fine, you get a lot of men can fake that everything's fine, even when it isn't.
That might be the more accurate way to
Even
say
though
it. Yeah.
not quite as able to do it. It's not like she's not trying. It's just Mary can read her just a little bit. What else do you see in this interaction?
I we're seeing Aomer's realism, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. Remember when we first met Aomer, he's kind of bamboozled and startled when Aragorn starts talking about who he is, how it's just he and his two companions chasing orcs, and how they come from Lothlorien. And Aomer says, "Have I left the real world for the land of myths and legends?" And Aragorn says, "It's the same world, buddy."
Mm-hmm.
But here, common experience has told him no one survives the paths of the dead. And the solution to the paths of the dead is an ancient prophecy. It's by definition, on the supernatural side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Hammer is like Theoden also doesn't expect the path of the dead to work for Aragorn, but Hammer seems especially skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever exactly is in there, it's not going to end well. It never has. And so
Yeah.
he is, well, anyone who grows up in an area with folk tales will be drawn to believe in those folk tales more than they will strange stories from the other side of the world, because you don't hear those until you're older. So
Exactly. Yeah.
growing up with your mother saying, hey, if you go into the mountains there, you'll die, is one thing growing up, and then eventually hearing, hey, elves exist is completely different. If
Mm-hmm.
only they didn't, everything would be better.
Oh my goodness, we're gonna read the Silmarillion.
I will I will hate half of it. I hear there are cool spiders in it. Andrew's kind
Yeah,
of a spider guy, by the way,
it's
if you
true.
don't know. Apparently. Mary has questions about the paths of the dead, so he kind of brings that up. He's heard about it, but he doesn't have the explanation, and so we get the explanation again. For us as readers, it's a little bit irrelevant because we've already seen what the paths of the dead have to offer, and so hearing about it on the other side is strikes me as a little bit silly.
Yeah, I
Also,
can see that. Yeah,
also at this point, Aragorn had come through there the day before, and so at this point, even along the timeline, it's been a day since all these things have happened. Um, Eowyn does say, uh, let's see, Eowyn basically says there are reports in the area that the dead people have come out of the mountain, and we don't really know why or what they are, but apparently they have come out. So I'm not exactly sure how she gets all that news from around on the other side of the mountain, which is where Aragorn and all the dead people went out. But oh well, that's a question for later. The point being, the area has already seen some.
no. She's talking about just the humans that we're seeing riding through in the night.
Okay.
It's all on this side of the mountains.
Okay. So that would be the group of rangers and such.
Yeah.
All right. That makes more sense. I'm not sure why she doesn't just say um that.
She does say it a little strangely. I can see
Oh
that.
well. She is talking in a very detached manner, cuz even when she says I don't know where Aragorn went, and then when Theoden says he went to the paths of the dead, she's like, "Yeah." So that's kind of lying, but whatever.
Hmm,
Fair enough. She is trying to avoid the reality of the situation. Perhaps would be one way to read that
maybe
charitably. Theoden has
Theoden's awesome.
he's cool. He is. I wonder. I wonder what the experience would be reading this book for the first time instead of reading this book for the second or third time after having seen the movies a ton, or well, rather reading the book back in the day, seeing the movies a ton, and now reading it again. So I know that spoiler alert: Theoden is not going to make it through the rest of this book. He's going to die. Um,
Yeah,
he's really telegraphing that really hard here,
Yeah.
over and over in this chapter. So that's a big foreshadowing beat. Here he says, "My heart feels as if I will not see Aragorn again." Um, which is one of like 4 mentions in the chapter that he should probably stay behind or else he's going to die, and
Yeah.
um, and he's not going to stay behind anyway. Instead, he cites a passage, a promise from, if I understand it right, this would be back in Rohan's founding, or
Exactly. Yes.
okay,
Yes.
at least the building of Edoras. But just
Yeah.
is this Brago
This would have
guy?
been, yeah, the second or third king of Rohan.
Okay, and so they're coming down to scout out the area and eventually build the capital there. And they found some old guy sitting out in front of the Paths of the Dead, and the old guy
Hmm.
said, "One day this will be open." And the king said, "Wait, what day?" And the guy fell forward and died because he was old.
This is classic Saxon myth. Okay.
It is. It is. So apparently there is a day in the future where the paths will be open, and Theoden says maybe Aragorn is that guy.
Yeah.
Who knows? Is just out of curiosity, do you know when Balder, son of Brago, would have been alive? And would that have, the old guy he talked to, would that have been like the old king who refused Isildur's call, or do we have any idea or any timeline, or is it just kind of an ancient myth that we
Oh
don't know
no,
an
this would
answer
have
to?
been well before Isildur, or
Okay,
well after Isildur. I mean, well after.
okay.
Yeah.
So, who knows what that guy is,
Yeah.
basically.
It's possible he's like one of the last mountain men. That might be what it is.
Okay. So one of the last of that generation that refused him and got the curse, or
No, that wouldn't check
different
out.
different group.
Yeah, that generation would have not been here, but one of the last or the last descendant, perhaps something like that.
Okay.
But that's just a guess. I don't know if we ever learn his identity.
Yeah, that would make the most sense out of
Yeah.
what there is. Um, do you have any other thing? The next major thing I have, well, there's a minor note I have to make, but the next major thing I have is when the Gondorian rider arrives. So if you have
Yeah.
anything else in
Just
this
that
conversation.
I like the contrast between Amber and Theoden here. Theoden says, "Hey, like Theoden isn't just reaching. Like he says, maybe Aragorn will survive the Paths of the Dead
Mhm.
because I don't know, he's become more optimistic after being firsthand healed by Gandalf. I think,
Yeah.
but it's not just a baseless optimism,
Mhm.
but it's in contrast to Amber, who says, probably not. I don't think Aragorn's going to survive if he went that way." And he earlier said, yeah, not here. I forgot to mention it. Earlier, he said, since such a one as Aragorn has gone through these paths, our hope dwindles, which is interesting seeing hope connected to Aragorn again.
Yeah.
Because you have the outward appearance of hopelessness because you're going through necessary darkness before hope becomes greater.
Mhm. Well, Aragorn is very clearly not just a human being. He's something a little bit more than that. And I think Eomer, with his very kind of earthly view of things, if we were to summarize it like that, maybe doesn't yet believe in that or doesn't know the extent of what that would look like. Whereas Theoden, who has experienced more of the miraculous firsthand, is a little more open to that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of times age and wisdom and maturity kind of lead you in that direction as well. Uh, Young
Yeah,
people tend to be more physically minded, and old people will sometimes come around to it at the end. Um,
indeed.
one thing there is to mention here is Eowyn, when she sees Aragorn, she describes him as grimmer and older and fey. I thought him.
Yes.
Is Fey, is that Elven?
Not necessarily.
Okay, what is Fey?
In like the Saxon and North way of thinking, Fey is like uh it's almost like the idea of being controlled by destiny.
Okay. Okay, like fated.
Sort of like that, if I understand correctly. Or like inhuman, like
Mhm.
Fey is in contrast to being more human
Okay.
and be like moved by fate or great resolve, I think is sort of the idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, well, all right. In a lot of other fantasy things then adapt that term to just mean fairies or some kind of elven influence.
Yeah. The
Um,
word can mean that, but
okay.
that can also mean the other thing.
Apparently, it can also mean effeminate, which is a funny thing to add in there. So Aragorn
Yeah.
shows up. She's like, "Wow, he's kind of like a woman." Um,
Yeah. That's not what's going on here.
I doubt that's the definition, but it would be pretty funny. Yeah, I choose to understand it as elven because what Éomer says later on is, "Wow, what a time that a fey mood should fall on this kind of man." I just think that's funny. We should, anytime I see somebody doing something I disagree with, I can just call them elven.
Bah.
They got a fey mood with them, and they will feel discriminated against. Fantastically, of course. Moving on. So, Gondor shows up. Um, there is at this moment somewhere in these councils, or at least this conversation they're having at dinner, a Gondorian writer shows up to Theoden to call for aid, as if Gondor had not already called for aid with the beacons.
Mm. What do you think
So,
the explanation is?
um, I would charitably, this is. I assume this is Denethor sending a follow up messenger to make sure that Theoden is actually coming.
Yeah.
That could be the explanation. Alternately, it seems that a lot of what the messenger communicates is, hey, we need you really, really fast.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's just to kind of remind him to be speedy. I feel like
Yeah.
that would be communicated by the beacons being lit when they haven't been lit in however many years, but you know,
Hmm.
some people forget over time.
Sure. Well, I think that's exactly what's going on.
Okay.
So the fire can't communicate back to Denethor,
Yeah.
and that's probably the biggest thing. Um, a person can communicate a lot more necessary specifics and report back to Denethor. So
So the fire would serve as kind of the first call of, hey, I do need your help. And then at the same time, the rider would be sent out because it's going to take him 2, 3, 4 days or whatever to round the mountains and get to Rohan. So it does make sense that there would be both methods of communication to try and go out. A very big deal is made about this red arrow thing.
indeed.
And Theoden's like, wow, the arrow is red.
Ah,
And that's all we get. So I assume there's significance to that. I don't know what it would be.
it's just a symbol of summoning.
Okay. Is there any? Does the Silmarillion tell us about what that is?
No, the
Or
Silmarillion's not going to tell you about this.
I
This is
don't know.
much too recent.
Oh well,
um,
Theoden says, Theoden's been alive for a long time, and that's never been sent over, and so it seems like it's this really significant thing, and yet
yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't. I don't know. I don't know what it's supposed to mean other than, wow, he sees that this is a really significant thing. And maybe that's
yeah.
all there is.
You imagine it's like an exchange of item here, remembering or reminding the Rohirrim of their oath to help Gondor in time of need,
Mm-hmm.
and or indicating how very desperate the situation is in Gondor.
Yeah. Rohan doesn't really seem like an arrow kind of people, and Gondor doesn't really either. And so I find it odd that that would be the symbol instead of like a
Yeah.
banner or a spear or a something.
Well, it's more conveniently sized.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is.
I think maybe it's. This is just entirely speculative here,
Mhm.
but it's maybe that the idea of an enemy has cast their dart toward Gondor.
Ah,
Maybe something like that.
perhaps. Maybe when Gondor and Rohan signed a peace treaty, one of the guys held the bow and one of the guys put a black arrow to it and then shot it and
Yeah, wait a
knocked it
minute.
out. It's like smoking the pipe of peace, but like fantastical or something. Either way, the point is Rohan needs to be there. Theoden says Rohan will take another week to arrive. The messenger says, well, we may not be there in a week or whatever it is. Theoden says, well, you know, I don't know why you want me to show up to your city and then come inside because we don't really fight inside of cities. Like, what are we supposed to do? Rohan's only really going to be useful out on the open field in front, and so it's kind of better for them to wait for the point at which Minas Tirith is under siege for them to then attack in a cavalry charge.
That is what he says. Yeah.
So okay. There is, I think, basically the messenger is trying to communicate the urgency of Rohan getting there, and just practically, it's not that easy to move 6 or 10,000 people, and we'll get there when we can.
Mm.
Might be better if we're a few minutes late. That might be more effective for us in the end, which is probably ultimately how that's going to work out. Theoden somewhere in here says he's going to die again, or at least he hints at
Yeah, I
it.
think so.
Yeah.
I like that Hergon, the messenger, says, make haste, for it is before the walls of Minas Tirith that the doom of our time will be decided. And he's like half right.
Yeah. Isn't that what Gandalf says in the movie? They stripped that line and gave it to somebody. I think it's Gandalf.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, or something very similar to this. Yeah.
Mhm. Something along those lines. But now my memory is conflicting, so I'll leave it at that. Yes, Mary says, I would go down the paths of the dead to follow you. And Theoden says, hey, many roads could be the paths of the dead, which is
So
another
shut up.
line of, yeah, basically, quit talking. Thank you. Go away.
Yeah.
Pretty,
Which,
pretty much
uh,
immediately.
yeah. If words have power, then Theoden barely saves Mary here, as we'll see later.
Okay. Good to keep in mind. Um, Theoden says, "Get up in the morning." Um, Mary says, "Okay, I'll get up and ride with you." And Theoden says, "I said get up in the morning," uh, and that's about where that's going to end. In the morning, it's not really morning because Sauron's darkness has arrived over all of them, and
Yeah.
that saps some of the courage of Rohan. But Rohan is going to go ahead and go anyway because they've committed to it. This is where Theoden releases Mary from his oath.
Yeah.
This is
Poor
like
Mary.
the quickest turnaround ever. I thought you were supposed to have 2 weeks, but I guess it's from
Yeah.
employee to employer for 2 weeks, I suppose. Um, Mary has been sworn to Theoden for like less than a week, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
And Theoden immediately kind of ditches him. Mary wants to go to war, but Theoden says no. You're not going to be effective in a war, and also I don't want you in the war. Like you're not going to be able to ride with somebody. You don't have a horse for it. Nobody else can take you.
Hmm.
No, this is not happening. Um, it is at this moment that Aowen is just like, well, I know you're not going to war now, but time to kit you out for a war. which I feel very, uh, very oddly about. Feel like that contradicts Theoden right to his face.
No, 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 no.
No, okay. What's going on with that then?
There's still a need for, and we've seen different people mention this.
Mhm.
No, they might well lose to Sauron at Minas Tirith. And it's a practicality, especially for people so warlike as the Rohirrim, to make sure people have proper gear.
Okay.
I think Eowyn here has decided that she's going, spoilers, to take Mary with her,
Yes.
having witnessed this whole interaction and like really relating to it. But Theoden would not see it as a contradiction to his face, as kind of a normal thing to do.
Okay. Well, it's hey, I have gear prepared for you, and then only when they get outside is Eowyn like, well, Aragorn wanted you armed for battle, which the last time I read chapter 2, because I had extra time waiting for you this morning, I went back and read chapter 2.
He didn't say that.
He doesn't say that at all. So either
Yeah,
that is something that was stated in the world but not recorded in the book, or
which I sort of doubt.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think she's just lying.
yeah, yeah.
um, again, I don't really like her at this point, and I am curious to see where that eventually goes, and what turns her around and kind of makes her less trashy than she's acting
It's
right then.
it's really very good and very interesting.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah,
the
she does lie flat out
mm-hmm.
about Aragorn's request. And so that more than anything else tells you, all right, she's probably planning something, which we know she is,
Yep.
and she's going to loop Mary into this.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. Um, for Eowyn, we talked about this a lot, and we'll talk about this again, probably not right here. But like Eowyn has like plenty of reasons to want to fight, and part of it is a hopelessness, which we talked about. We'll talk about more. But she also has this duty set upon her, right?
Yeah.
And like fair or not, it's like she has this duty set upon her, just
Mm-hmm.
like other people have duties set upon them. But it's sort of different for Mary. And Theoden's interaction with him is I think it's the right thing for Theoden to do,
Yeah.
even though you could probably rightly call it patronizing to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mary's also 3 feet tall.
right.
Like, what are you gonna do about that? You can't get around
Yeah.
that.
You can't. Yeah. I can see why Theoden would consider it disrespectful to Aragorn, or even equivalent to murder,
mm-hmm.
to suit up such a one. But and there's also the practical, like, how are you going to keep up?
Yeah.
You know, a horse would have trouble bearing a full rider of Rohan and a hobbit.
Mm-hmm.
So
There is no room. There is no need. Instead, he is somewhere. He is assigned to basically help Eowyn as she
yes,
is governing the area. So
yeah.
I'm kind of curious as to what as to who Eowyn pushes the responsibility on, or if she just kind of up and leaves without leaving somebody in charge. But I would assume those questions don't really get answered.
No,
What is
I think
Eowyn's
we
tax policy, as the
no.
guy who can't write once said? Hey, it's not my fault. He should write.
Indeed.
He's got 2 books still. He's gonna die.
Uh, yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything else about that right now.
Understandable. We avoid taxes as much as possible within the legal limits of the law. Don't investigate me. That was a great thing to have said in public. Last thing that happens is Rohan sings a song.
Mhm.
That's
I
cool.
forgot about this song.
It's kind of mid. Doesn't really rhyme.
Yes, it does.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'm just stupid. I can. No, it
Not
doesn't.
every not every line.
Wait,
Yes,
what
it does.
rhyme? Give me one rhyme in the book, in the place, in the song, whatever it's called. Morning sun, halls enshrouded, mantled people, places faded, him, he, them, days,
Him and them.
Aorlingas.
Okay. No, it doesn't really rhyme.
Yeah, it's a classic British moment. Don't know how to make art.
No, you don't have to rhyme all the time. I thought it
Oh,
did at first. Because I'm stupid.
yeah. Well,
I
I
thought it
thought I
was
was
some.
stupid when you said it rhymed. How it
Anyway.
how the situation ends up. I'm not a big fan of the song because it doesn't rhyme. It's basically about them marching to war.
Yeah.
So that's cooler than a lot of
Forth
other
rode the
songs.
king, fear behind him, fate before him. Fealty kept he, oaths he had taken, all fulfilled them.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's very
doom
Saxony.
drove them on, darkness took them, horse and horseman, hoofbeats afar, sank into silence, so the songs tell us.
Yeah, it's epic battle poem that doesn't
Mhm.
it doesn't rhyme. It's not that
Oh,
kind of poem. It's
sure.
just the other
It's
kind of
just
poem.
awesome. It's, I don't know. My brain just likes poems, I guess. I,
Yeah.
I like how it summarized everything that's happened so far.
Hmm.
Gandalf said, "Hey, if we're going to beat Sauron, you've got to come." And so Theoden said, "Well, my people pledged to do this anyway.
Yep.
Also, I think Gandalf's right.
Mhm.
Also, I want to help people,"
Yep.
which are three wonderful motivations for a people who've just been exhausted fighting Saruman to less than a week later leave their home behind
Hmm.
to ride to Gondor.
Yeah. And that's really the point of this last section, because in these last couple of pages, as they leave, Rohan is being attacked, and they get news reports of orcs who are coming in from the north and east, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
But they've already committed to Gondor, and so they ignore those things and they go to Gondor instead. There's
Yeah.
a cool idea there that they've been called to do the thing, and so they go and do the thing, even though that means sacrificing some amount of their homeland. One of the reasons Rohan couldn't bring as many soldiers as it wanted to is that they needed to leave some defenses in the north and east, and so it's not like they're leaving everything defenseless, but they are
You,
protecting Gondor at the expense of their
people
own.
like Aemir could have, or sort of like Aemir, but more cowardly, perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
could argue, we need everybody here.
Yeah,
What if we get attacked, you know?
which is kind of true.
As it is, the appendices say the Ents help
Let's
drive off some
go.
orcs that come in. Yeah.
Good job, Treebeard.
Yeah.
I knew he wasn't worthless.
He's wonderful.
He's pretty cool. I'm a big Treebeard guy. Um, the last thing I keep saying, the last thing that happens. The last
You keep
last
saying
thing that
that.
happens is Mary tries again to be taken to war and is told no. But there's some random Rohan guy, allegedly, who really wants to die, and Mary looks at his allegedly eyes and is like, "Wow, that person really wants to die." And that person ends up picking him up and hiding him under the cloak, and then just like riding off with him. It's it's not a man. It's a woman and a hobbit in a trench coat.
Exactly. Oh, where's that line? A young man. Oh, there it is. Mary thought. He caught the glint of clear gray eyes and shivered, for it came suddenly to him that was the face of one without hope who goes in search of death.
Mm.
That's a couple paragraphs before this writer, it's Eowyn, it's true, absconds with him.
Yeah.
um, I think that line's interesting. We haven't seen Tolkien write that expression for anybody. We've had different kinds of hope and despair, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But, I forget who said it first. But you know that old line or adage, and Faramir said something like it already in Lord of the Rings. Basically, like a warrior needs to fight for the love of what's behind him, not for the battle itself. You can see, because of Eowyn's despair and that dead end feeling that's engulfed her, she does wish, like, Mary's perceiving something Tolkien wants us to perceive, which is she's going in search of death.
Yeah.
That's her last hurrah. It's the only thing that she thinks will satisfy her.
Depression hits us all differently.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But
that's part of it.
That stands out to me because, I forget the name of the battle.
The Pelennor Fields.
No, but in World War I, Tolkien
the Somme?
was... Yes. He was there.
That's a nasty place to be.
Yeah, and so there and maybe in a couple other places, Tolkien wasn't on the front line. He was a horse manager. But he would have, surely he would have seen people with Eowyn's expression, and he's not just making this up. He must have seen people who took this attitude.
Yep.
So it just makes it more haunting to imagine for me.
It is given circumstances, it is a relatively reasonable attitude to take. It's definitely what it feels like for her. And, I can see it. I can understand why somebody would do that. Don't agree with it, but
yes.
I am sympathetic to the issues that she's dealing with. So, I mean, he...
yes.
Dernhelm. What a great name. That sounds real. It's not Eowyn at all. I don't know when we'll find out it's Eowyn, but spoilers.
Not until the Pelennor Fields.
Yeah. It was a poorly kept secret by the narrator, Frodo, but I assume Mary didn't actually know who it was.
No.
Then. So we shall see. 2 half warriors perhaps can make one whole warrior, and that is kind of how it works out, I think, in the end. So
yeah, you could make that argument.
I guess we'll see in 3 chapters or something like that.
Yes. We got the Siege of Gondor, Rite of the Rohirrim, and then the main event, the Battle of the Pelennor Fields.
Indeed, we do. So
I'm so excited to read through the Pelennor Fields with you.
I'm very curious to see. It better live up to the hype. If it doesn't, I'm suing Tolkien.
Good.
I can sue the guy who sold the rights to Rings of Power and Gollum.
Oh, my word.
And the Gollum movie that's coming out. And whatever other side project that really should never have existed. But, oh well. If you have the estate, may as well use it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I think that's it. Is there anything else from that chapter? You good?
That's it for me.
Next time we'll read about the Siege of Gondor, and I didn't read ahead any, so I have no idea what happens, but I assume it's terrible. We shall see.
We have to deal with Denethor over and over again.
Oh, I love Denethor. Don't we all love Denethor?
Wait, I wonder, what does it end on?
The siege?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's for next time.
Oh my goodness. What a dramatic end to the chapter.
This is crazy.
I forgot about that.
Last.
Oh.
The last word in the chapter is last. That's wild when that happens. Okay, we're cutting this off here.
Goodness. Oh. Okay, sorry.
Bye.